Hi everyone, welcome to the channel Sluggers Blue for CAT VRC for your CAT VRC preparation. In today's session, we'll be taking up the fourth RC for the of the economics and management genre. This RC was asked in the second slot of your CAT exam in the year 2018. I've titled this RC as Fallacy of Meritocracy, 512 words, 5 questions. This is the part one, the passage explainer. Now, for those of you who might be watching this session for the first time, know that the session is split into two parts. Part one, which is the passage explainer, where I take you through each and every paragraph of the passage and explain it in detail by the use of a schematic diagram. And part two is where I take you through the questions. The current video is part one. What you're watching right now is every session has two videos. This video is part one, and 40 such sessions make up a course that I've titled as an anthology of RCs for your reading comprehension preparation for the CAT. So, and those of you who have not watched the intro video and you are interested to know the details of the course, you can watch the intro video of this course by clicking on a cue card on the top right side of your screen. There should be you should be able to see a letter I there, and if you click on that, it will show you the thumbnail of the intro video, which you can click and well check out the details of the course. All right, so let's jump into the passage explainer now. Okay, so now guys, this is the passage explainer part of the video. Your passage explainer screen, your current screen is split into two parts. On the left side is where we'll have the passage, as you can see here, and on the right side is where we'll have the schematic diagrams. Now, the way we'll go about this is that I'll read and explain the passage paragraph by paragraph as the schematic diagram simultaneously appears on the right. Okay, post reading every paragraph, I'll explain the same in detail by the use of the schematic diagram that will have appeared by that time, and then move on to the next paragraph. All right, so let's start with the first paragraph. All right, so let's jump into the first paragraph. The complexity of modern problems often precludes any one person from fully understanding them. Factors contributing to rising obesity levels, for example, include transportation systems, infrastructure, media, convenience foods, changing social norms, human biology, and psychological factors. The multidimensional or layered character of complex problems also undermines the principle of meritocracy, the idea that the best person should be hired. There is no best person. When putting together an oncological research team, a biotech company such as Gilead or Genentech, Genentech would not construct a multiple choice test and hire top scorers or have people whose resumes score highest according to some performance criteria. Instead, they would seek diversity. They would build a team of people who bring diverse knowledge bases, tools, and analytic skills. So, guys, that's the reading of the first paragraph. Now, let me take you through every part of it one by one. So, for the first part of the first paragraph says that the complexity of modern problems often precludes any one person from fully understanding. So, he's essentially saying that the modern problems are so complex that it's almost impossible for a single person to completely understand the same. And then he gives an example. Basically, he gives the example of obesity. He says that like for example, there are many factors that contribute to obesity, including transportation systems, infrastructure, media, convenience foods, social norms, biology, psychological factors, and such that there is a multi-dimensional. As you can see, I have tried to label these as the here on the x-axis you have the dimensions D1, D2, D3. This obesity problem is contributed by factors which are multi-dimensional in nature, three dimensions, and also multi-layered, right? So it's a complex problem. He's trying to basically make the point that it's a complex problem. It's a complex modern problem, and this multi-dimensional and multi-layered nature of the problem undermines the idea of meritocracy. Now, meritocracy is basically the idea that you hire people based on their merit, right? For example, if you look into if you're planning to hire a neuroscientist, then or if you're planning to hire anyone for any position, you basically conduct a simple test or maybe check their resumes and try to find someone who's the best, right? In quotes, person for the job. So that's the idea of meritocracy. So he says that this multidimensional and multi-layered nature undermines the idea of meritocracy here, and then he goes on to give an example to show what good companies, according to the author, like Gilead and Genentech do. That when these companies want to create an oncological research team, an oncological research team would be a team that is focused on the research of cancer. biotech, then when they want to create an oncological research team, they would not construct a multiple choice test and hire the top scorers, or they would not hire people whose resumes score the highest. Basically, they will not uh, base their selection on the principles of meritocracy. What they would rather do is they would seek diversity, right? And they would build a team of people who bring diverse knowledge bases, tools, and analytical skills to the table. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, coming to the second paragraph. Believers in meritocracy might grant that teams ought to be diverse, but then argue that meritocratic principles should apply within each category. Thus, the team should consist of the best mathematicians, the best oncologists, and the best biostatisticians from within the pool. That position suffers from a similar flaw. Even with a knowledge domain, no test or criteria applied to individuals will produce the best team. Each of these domains possesses such depth and breadth that no test can exist. Consider the field of neuroscience. Upwards of 50,000 papers were published last year covering various techniques, domains of inquiry, and levels of analysis, ranging from molecules and synapses up through networks of neurons. Given that complexity, any attempt to rank a collection of neuroscientists from best to worst as if they were competitors in the 50-meter butterfly must fail. What could be true is that given a specific task, yeah, and the composition of a particular team, one scientist would be more likely to contribute than another. Optimal hiring depends on context, and optimal teams will be diverse. So that's the reading of the second paragraph, guys. So let me take you through each part of it. So basically, guys, the author has in the second paragraph he has taken a counterpoint to the proposition he has made about diversity, right? In the first paragraph. And the counterpoint he says that that believers in meritocracy might argue that okay, fair enough that you can go and have your diverse team, but ensure that every member of the diverse team is the most meritorious member from their domain. Like for example, the oncologist of the team has to be the most meritorious person in the field of oncology, right? So that's the position that he has taken, right? And then the author that's the position that the author believes might be of the belief of the people who believe in meritocracy. And then he goes on to say that even this position is flawed because each of these knowledge domains are so diverse and varied in terms of the topics and the levels of analysis that they deal with, that no single test can be created to assess the merit of the various various experts working in these domains. For example, he has taken the example of neuroscience, right? So let's suppose uh, maybe there is an expert who specializes in the network of neurons, and there's an expert who specializes in synapses. Now there is, because these two experts work in two substantially different domain, there is no single test that can be created to measure their abilities. Okay, and that's the point he's trying to make, that these domains are so diverse that you cannot create a common test to put these people on a scale, right? And hence any attempt to do that will definitely fail. And then he goes on to provide an alternative. He basically says that what can, however, be done is that for a given task that has some given elements and a given composition of team that is required for the task, certain experts from that domain might be more suitable than the other experts. And guys, we have tried to show that, or represent that by using these shapes, right? So see, this is a rectangle shape and this is a rectangle shape. So this expert is more would be can be more helpful than the other experts from the same domain, right? So that's what he's trying to say. And finally, he says that he makes kind of a conclusive claim of the paragraph, that optimal hiring depends on the context. Depends on context is the task at hand, and optimal teams will, as a result, be diverse. Okay, so that's your second paragraph. Coming to the third paragraph, evidence for this claim can be seen in a way that papers and paired patents that combine diverse ideas tend to rank as high impact. It can also be found in the structure of the so-called random decision forest, a state-of-the-art machine learning algorithm. Random forest consists of ensembles of decision trees. If classifying pictures, each tree makes a vote. Is that a picture of a fox or a dog? A weighted majority rules. Random forests can serve many ends. They can identify bank fraud and diseases, recommend ceiling fans, and predict online dating behavior. When building a forest, you do not select the best trees, as they tend to make similar classifications. You want diversity. Programmers achieve that diversity by training each tree on a different data set, on different data, a technique known as bagging. They also boost the trees cognitively by training trees on the hardest cases, those that the current forest gets wrong. This ensures even more diversity and accurate forests. So guys, that's the reading of your third paragraph. I'll take you through it very quickly. So see, he's basically in this case, in the earlier paragraph, he had made a claim, right, that optimal hiring depends on context and optimal teams will, as a result, be diverse. And then he's trying to substantiate that claim by some pieces of evidence. He gives two pieces of evidence in particular. The first piece of evidence relates to how patents and papers that combine diverse ideas, they tend to rank as high impact, and that's the first piece of evidence. The second piece of evidence, he talks about a state-of-the-art machine learning algorithm called the random decision forest. And he goes on to explain the function, the way this forest functions. Okay, he basically says that a random decision forest comprises a group of trees, and then let's suppose the task is to figure out whether a picture is that of a fox or a dog. Then every tree in the group gets to take a vote, right? Whether it's a dog or a fox, and then a weighted majority, like the option that gets the maximum vote wins. Okay, so and then he goes on to just, so that's the working of the random forest, and then he goes on to list what are the various applications of the same, like bank fraud and recommend diseases, identifying bank fraud diseases, predicting online dating behavior, and recommending ceiling fans, and so on and so forth. And then he goes on to talk about how are the trees selected, when you're creating this random forest, and this is analogous to how the team should be selected according to the author, right? So he basically says the in case of random forest, that programmers don't select the best trees here, but rather they try to focus on diversity. They select trees which are all trained on different data sets, and very much like how the author makes the case that people in the team, people of like human teams, when solving complex modern problems, should comprise people who come from various diverse backgrounds. Similarly, like he's trying to make the same point analogously here by using this algorithms example. Okay, so the trees, they try to select trees which are trained on different data sets, and they also boost the forest cognitively by training some trees on the hardest cases, those that the current forest gets wrong, right? And this ensures even more diversity and accuracy. So that's what he talks about in the third paragraph. Let's move on to the last paragraph. Coming to the last paragraph, yet the fallacy of meritocracy persists. Corporations, non-profits, governments, universities, and even preschool tests score and hire the best. This all but guarantees not creating the best team. Ranking people by common criteria produces homogeneity. That's not likely to lead to breakthroughs. That's the reading of the last paragraph. I'll explain the same to you quickly. So he basically says that despite all of this reasoning and logic, that modern problems can better be solved by teams that are more diverse. uh, Most of the organizations like operations, non-profits, and so on and so forth, they still rely on the principle of meritocracy when they hire or they conduct their business, right? And this all and he basically says that this all but guarantees that uh, a best team will not be created, and hence is working in is a kind of ends up being contrary to what they are trying to do, right? And hence he finally makes the last point that judging people by a common criteria is basically just going to create more homogeneity, which is not going to lead to any breakthroughs. That's very closes the passage. Okay, so guys, we're done with the passage explained. Let's move on to the central idea. Okay, so guys, the central idea for this particular passage, I think it will be pretty straightforward, and it goes like this. So the author basically wants to convey that the complexity of modern problems requires team formation or hiring that is contextually driven and diverse. However, most organizations are still entrenched in practices that are based on meritocratic principles, which is unlikely to lead to breakthroughs. So that's essentially what he wants to convey by the central idea. All right. So yeah. So, guys, with that, we are done with the first part of the fallacy of meritocracy, which was passage explanation. Now, you can, if you can move on, you can click here and move on to the second part of the session, where we'll be taking up questions of the passage. Okay, and for those of you again who have not watched the intro video, you can click on the cue card either, or you can click here on this card, which will take you to the intro video of the course. And yeah, so that's about it.